Hello there, folks. Welcome for the second race of the Ready to Race community, featuring the one and only yours truly, the man you're listening to right this moment, Bumblebee, once again live on the air for you. And just in time, as you can see, we are about to begin the qualifying session here. And listen to those engines go. Hopefully they're not drowning out my voice. We're going to make sure you can hear the engines, but at the same time you can hear me. That is the preferred method of how we broadcast. So we're just going to quickly go down the lineup as we have just started. And before we begin, a quick shout out there to Beat Racing #1, who also has his live stream going on here with us, as he is racing with us here at Ready to Race. If you guys want to check out his live streams, get a bit more of a private onboard with some commentary from him as well, go ahead and check that out at the same time if you would like. Hello there to Beat Racing from Bumblebee. Good to see you again, my friend. Let's have a good race today. Quickly going down the lineup, of course. Returning to us here, RTR, Adrian Senna. We have Vornax here with us, one of the pros of the game. Sorry, I think that might be actually the wrong one, but we'll get back to it in just a moment. That's Lucas Mas 22, one of the pros. Here he is, one of the pro racers here with us. Lucas Mas 22, ID 78, has returned, one of the Citroen racers. Tyke is back to try and reclaim victory in this race after a very, very unfortunate beginning to his race last time at Interlagos, as Adrian Senna gave him a bit of a bump and run, similar to NASCAR there, going down the Senna S. But we all have a chance to redeem ourselves here today at Suzuka, a track that has 17 turns, if I am correct. It's going to be probably, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same exact layout that they race in Formula 1. A very, very fun track to visit here, a track that is actually existing in real life as well. You can go check it out if you ever go visit Japan. Now we're watching Tyke going in there for his first pit stop here of his qualifying race session. Just under 30 minutes left in his qualifying race session. Oh, it turns out B Racing won't be racing with us here today. He said, "Not today, mate. Got another race tonight." That's okay, my friend. Good luck on your very own race. And regardless, folks, if you still want to check out his live stream later on today to see what he's up to today, make sure you go check out B Racing 1 on YouTube as well. Watching Mad Max, the partner of ID 78, the Citroen gang. My favorite livery, my favorite team, if you ask me. MTX069 has joined us here today. I believe he may be one of the racers that got promoted from the second race championship that we have going on at the same time. That race class would not include pros. I would just have pro-ams and the amateurs. Parolin 117, the other Ferrari driver, has joined us here. Once again, another Dutch driver. And Mikios R has returned with us one more time here, of course, for the safety car duties. Very much appreciated for him to do this for us all the time. Check out the sweet livery there of RTR. That is our very own RTR safety car. And boy, am I in love with it. Watching Vornax here, who I believe is going to put down the first qualifying lap time. He's going to be one of our Pro-Am races, if I'm correct. We're just going to quickly pull up the stat sheet for you guys. As he begins to approach the finish line, let's see what time he slaps down first. Oh, never mind, I got ahead of myself. That was his out lap. Now it's his flying lap, so he's definitely going to be the first man going out there. Let's see what time he puts down. halfway through his lap. There goes Vornex, one of the other racers. I believe it's going to be in one of the Citroens as well. Let's get that nice camera view going. Adrian Senna getting a bit of camera time there as well, going past Vornex, one of our Pro-Am-A drivers. That's going to be the difference in the qualification. If you go check out the second race that's going on at exactly the same time, you'd be checking out the Pro-Am-B racers and the amateur racers out there. Here you're going to be watching the pro racers and of course the Pro-Am-A class racers. Racers like Vornex, racers like ID78, racers like Mad Max are going to be drivers that are part of the Pro-Am-A class. Seems we are missing a few drivers. I have not exactly seen Largo K, but I'm not exactly sure if he may have gone bumped down to the Pro-Am-B class, as after the last race, the organizers of RTR had a big meeting with a few of the drivers as well, and we decided to move some racers down to the secondary class and some races back up to the Pro-Am-A class, just to make these races a little bit more exciting for the drivers, and of course as a priority to make it exciting as possible for you guys, the viewers. And as of right now, folks, seems that Adrian Senna is going to be the man to beat here in Suzuka with the fastest lap time so far of a 1:57.41. Vornex, a Pro-Am-A racer, has actually so far secured second place on the podium. His fastest lap time is going to be 2 minutes and just about, I think it's going to be 3/10 of a second, something around like that. 0.38. It's going to be about a 2.5 second gap between himself and the leader in P1 right now, Adrian Senna. RTR Tyke moving his way up on a roster pro racer. His fastest lap time so far is going to be a 2 minutes, 0.24. And Perlin, Mr. Perlin 117 has robbed Adrian Senna, his fellow Ferrari driver, of first place. Now he's in P1 with a 1:56.88, about 0.5 of a second faster than his fellow Ferrari driver. Tyke still in third, slightly improving his lap time at 1:57.95. These guys are starting to put down the real lap times now. Lucas Mas with a 1:58.45. Mad Max, one of the first Citroen drivers, Pro-Am-A driver, 1:59.38, just under the 2 minute mark. Vornex dropping down. So I know he has a 1:58, I believe. I wonder why it's marking his lap time. His fastest lap time appears to be the 2 minutes. Maybe the other one got validated for some reason, although I do not believe that happened. Going down the line, TGTF Fab GT Lap 1, one of the BMW drivers, pro drivers, number 52. Fastest lap time so far of a 2.0162. MTX 069 with a 202.08. Just about 0.4 of a second between TGTF and MTX. RTR ID78, usually a little bit higher on the roster. It might be struggling with grip or simply the track line. We'll find out soon enough. Boy, I don't get tired of seeing that Bumblebee sticker in his car. Anyways, his fastest lap time so far is going to be, I believe, a 2.0296, which earns him P9. And of course, our safety car driver, let's give him a little bit more camera time. Look at that sweet livery. He is obviously not going to be putting down a qualifying lap time, although I'm pretty sure Mikuzari could actually put down a pretty good lap time, maybe with that vehicle. Back to the action. Parallel 117 is still going to be in P1. Adrian Senna in P2. Tyke still holding on to P3 as Parallel 117 with a quite a spin out there into the first turn as they enter the S-curves of this Suzuka track. Mad Max, one of our Citroen drivers, still in P4 with a 158.19 now. Lucas Mas 22 in the Lamborghini in P5. There goes Vornax around the hairpin, turn number 11 if I am not mistaken. Down he goes around the long bends of turn 13. Here mainly due to that turn, in turns like the first turn as well, you'd probably say, and definitely turn number 7, the Dunlop curve, are probably going to be, those are going to be the 3 turns that have made these racers probably add a little bit more camber just because of those very, very long curved turns. You need a little bit more extra camber so that way you can hold that speed, get a nice entry and exit into those turns. The tires are a little bit too straight, might struggle a little bit more, might be sliding around a little bit more. Here comes Vornax, Pro Am A class driver that is certainly impressing at the moment as he goes once again into the first turn, bumping Tyke out of P3, stealing that away from him with a 157.84. Although Tyke is just going to be 1/10 of a second behind Vornax. So let's see if he can re-secure that, or Vornax can give him a run for his money in this qualifying lap session. Just over 15 minutes to go. My apologies there, ladies and gentlemen, for my short disappearance. I guess that's what happens when you live stream with your cat in your room. You guys will meet him later on one day, possibly on Instagram. Speaking of Instagram, ladies and gentlemen, if you have not yet noticed, at the bottom right corner of your screen as we watch Vornax go into the pits, you can now check us out on Facebook and Instagram. You can go on Facebook at the RTR Ready to Race community. Feel free to drop a comment, follow us, and if you're interested in joining us, definitely send us a message. We always do our best to reply to our fans and other people that are interested in joining our community. As well, if you'd like to follow me a little bit more personally in what I do. So far, I just have this collaboration with Ready to Race, but I am certainly hoping on having more people to commentate for. But I'm certainly happy here with the Ready to Race community, as they did give me my big break. Much appreciated. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram as well, we definitely talk a lot about RTR there. Also, not just about Bumblebee. You can also check out the Instagram there. Brand new Instagram pretty much. At Bumblebee_broadcasting. Pretty simple to find. You'll know who it is when you see the logo. Trust me. As Tyke, while I was talking, seems that Tyke has reclaimed his P3 position. He's back up there. Same as Vornax, just 1/10 of a second faster than him. He now has a 157.71, beating that 8.4 of Vornax. Adrian Senna still in P2. Parolin 117 still about 0.2 of a second faster than him. 1.56.88 as he puts down another best sector there as he goes around the turn 11 hairpin. Let's go a little bit further down the line. RTR Mad Max bumped down to 5th place now that Vornax is in 4th. Lucas Mas in P6 with a personal best sector time. As we catch him going, it's around turns 15, 16, and 17 to complete one more lap. Let's see what time he puts down as we're following him along there in the Lamborghini. 158.01 I think is going to be now his fastest lap time, moving him up to P5. Once again pushing Mad Max yet again one more position down. And Mad Max certainly answers Lucas Mas 22, taking back P5. Boy, I'm glad I'm watching these guys at the right time. 157.90. Pretty fun midfield battle here for a qualifying race session if you ask me. Lucas Mas 22 back in P6, and Mad Max's partner in the other Citroen ID78 has now moved himself right back up there with a 158.93, I believe is going to be his best lap time now there in P7. TGT Fab GT Lap 1. Boy, that's a mouthful. Fastest lap time now, P8. Earned him P8, better yet, with a 159.64. MTX.069 with a 2.02, I think is going to be his fastest lap time, earning him P9 so far at the moment. Watching him go around the S turns, the S curves of Suzuka as he now enters the Dunlop curve, turn number 7 of Suzuka. And with just over 10 minutes to go, once again a quick shout out to Michios R. We're not going to forget about him, of course, and that beautiful, beautiful RTR safety car. Ooh, and he put a Bumblebee sticker on it as well with a Canadian flag. Oh, very much appreciated there, folks. Love this collaboration with just about 4 countries if I'm correct. We have some French drivers, not in this session, I think in the other session. Have some French drivers, a few Brits. Belgian racers, as you can see, a lot of Dutch drivers, and of course a Canadian broadcaster. How's that for diverse? Back up to the front of the action with Parolin 117. I think slightly improving his lap time, better yet, now with a 156.18. I think this man might be trying to go for a 155. Let's see if he can do that. Adrian Senna still in P2. RTR Adrian Senna still in P2, better yet. RTR Tyke in P3. Mad Max fighting his way up there to P4. Out qualifying his Citroen partner of ID78. And answering the call against Vornax and Lucas Mas 22. Regaining P4 with a 157.73. 1/10 of a second ahead of the racer in P5 right now as he goes around turn number 13. It's Vornax there, still with a 157.84, the best lap time. Lucas Mas 22, his previous best lap time of 158.01. Not good enough to keep him up there, but still in the midfield though. He's going to be in P6, just ahead of ID78, who's about 9/10 of a second behind him in terms of pace when it comes to these qualifying lap times. Although I do notice that ID78 is one of those racers that doesn't always exactly perform at his best on the qualifying race session. I'm not trying to take anything away from ID78. He is a fantastic driver in the RTR racing community, but he's one of those racers that really focuses on a race rather than the qualifying race session. I really like to see that sometimes, just because most of the drivers, of course, are very, very straightforward, right? You know, you perform as hard as you can in the qualifying, and then you perform as hard as you can during the race, which is what you should always do. But I like that racers like ID78 seem to have a bit more of a strategy throughout the whole process of the race here, not just during the race or not just during the qualifying. So definitely expect a lot more from ID78 once the lights go out. But so far, he's keeping himself in the midfield pretty good there, keeping a good pace for himself. You can see pretty consistent qualifying lap times if you can take a look to the right there. TGT Fab GT lap 1 completing one more lap. There he goes, exiting turn number 17 in that BMW. Let's see what lap time he puts down. I think for him that was a 159. Yep, 159.15. Still keeping him in P8. MTX 069 still back of the pack there in P9. Miki is our safety car driver. Thankfully have not needed to use him yet, so bit of a bittersweet feeling. You'd like to see that livery drive around the track, but at the same time, you don't want to see the safety car out there. Parallel 117 still with a 156.18. It's going to be the time to beat. Although he does have a P next to that lap, although I think that stands for pits when they go into the pit session there. RTR Adrian Senna is still in P2. Tyke still holding on there in P3. Mad Max still in P4. I think that's going to be maybe around 300ths of a second, just less than a tenth. Not much between P4 and P5 in terms of time, but he's still going to be holding on to P4 as we watch him go around the S-curves of the Suzuka track. MTX just put down a new qualifying lap time there, just over 2 minutes, 0.28 seconds. Slightly improving on his own lap time, but not improving in terms of position, unfortunately for him. I think the same thing is going to go for TGTF as well. MTX is going to be racing. I think he's going to be the only racer here with us with the Toyota class. TGTF, of course, representing the BMWs here. ID78 was one of the Citroens. There's going to be 3 Citroens, I think, in this race championship. One of the Lamborghinis is going to be going to Lucas Mas 22. Vornax was, of course, the other Citroen. Mad Max was the third one of the pack. Tyke with the other Lambo. And Adrian Senna and Parallel 117, the Ferrari team up there as he puts down yet again another best sector time. Let's see if he's going for another fastest lap. He's doing pretty good right now. Let's keep up with him as he is just about done with his lap here. There he goes, entering turn 15. 16 and 17, out he goes. Let's see if he can improve on that fastest lap time. One way to find out. Not quite, but still pretty fast. 156.40. Although he did do better than that before, he still holds that 156.18 fastest lap of the qualifying race session. Just under 5 minutes left to go. Probably the best time now here for drivers to go into the pits, get some brand new tires, and see if they can improve on their lap times one more time. And Parallel 117 has officially been bumped down to P2. RTR and Santa answering the call very late in this qualifying race session. 156.04. Just over a tenth of a second faster than his Ferrari partner. Mr. RTR and Santa certainly not taking no for an answer. He wants P1 and he wanted it bad. And he certainly got it. Pretty good time to get it as well now too, as all the other drivers, especially the one he's worried about, Parallel 117, won't have too much time to try and respond to that. Parallel 117 right there. Going into the pits, definitely responding to that fastest lap time that RTR and Senna just put down. He's going to be probably getting brand new racing soft tires, and off he goes. Last time you'll probably see him in the pits for this race. He's got a good chance to get maybe one more good flying lap down. And that's going to be it, folks. RTR Mad Max, quite the driver today. Started at around P6, P7, and just kept consistently bumping himself up. Getting past his race partner ID 78, Lucas Mas 22, Vornax, even Tyke. And right now, he is standing in P3, ladies and gentlemen. I am very impressed with this Citroen driver right now. Very consistent qualifying lap times right now. His fastest lap is going to be a 157.03, just out of the 56 club there from the Ferraris. RTR Tyke with a 157.43, just a little bit behind, just around 0.4 of a second behind Mad Max, the Belgian driver. He's going to be that split between all the other Dutch racers. Mad Max moving off to the side. I think he's happy with his fastest lap time, giving space to RTR Tyke. Very sportsmanlike thing to do, and that is exactly what we promote and what we like to preach here with Ready to Race, as well as Bumblebee Broadcasting. We like to see very clean drivers, very sportsmanlike drivers. We're not here to argue, we're not here to make fools out of each other. We're here to have a good time, produce good races, and hopefully produce a good show for you guys as well. That is the name of the game, as RTR Tyke is about to finish one more lap time. Let's see if he can answer the call against Mad Max. No, he can't. He got a personal best, but that's going to be a 157.11. Very small gap now between himself and Mad Max, but not quite enough to get him back into P3. Not a podium position at the time. Vornax, with a small penalty, and he automatically starts killing that penalty, as he should be. Those are the rules. Now we set out here with RTR. Lucas Mas 22 still in P6, ID 78 holding on to P7, TGT Fab GT Lap 1 still in P8, MTX 069 still in the back of the pack there. RTR Agent Senna on an outlap. Not sure if he's going to use that overflow time to try and get even one better qualifying lap time. Don't think he has to be too worried. Though Perlin 117 is on his final flying lap, might have a chance to improve on this. We will see. If he's not putting down purple sectors, I don't think it's going to be a very good flying lap to begin with. So let's find out in just a moment. Quick shout out to Perlin 117. Thank you for slapping those Bumblebee stickers on the back bumper. Looks beautiful if you ask me, but it might just be a little bit biased. Let's see if Mad Max can hold on to P3. This is something I certainly want to find out. .157.66, not improving on his best lap time. And I don't think Tyke is going to be able to answer in terms of fastest lap time either. And that's going to be the fastest lap times, I think. I'm pretty sure this is going to be the final. Don't expect this to be changing too much here. But we will find out very shortly. Everybody's just cruising down now with that final lap time remaining, that little bit of overflow time. Mikio's are driving out there with the safety car. Oh, bit of a bump there to ID 78. Get back into pits, he said. Herding them like a shepherd dog. Think these guys are just having a little bit too much fun out there right now. Nothing like a good old game of cops and robbers before we start a very fun race. And the qualifying race session is about to finish as the safety car Mikio goes past RTR Agent Senna, the racer in P1 for the start of this Suzuka race. There's the last qualifying results. And we are about to begin here. There you have it, Agent Senna P1, Perlin 117 P2, Mad Max in P3, one of the Citroen drivers. Going to be starting off here with RTR Agent Senna, 1 minute and 30 seconds. 30 minutes. Sorry, 1 hour and 30 minutes is how long this race is going to last. And off we go, folks, with RTR Agent Senna getting a great start. And one of the Ferraris, Perlin 117. Trying to beat him to that first turn. I don't think it's going to be happening, though. Lamborghinis closely behind each other. There goes Perlin 117 still in P2. RTR Tyke already bumped himself up to P3. Very good at the start. Always securing some positions there as he goes a little bit wider into the S turns. Lucas Mas 22 taking advantage of that. Going on the outside of one of those S curves. Taking away P3 from RTR Tyke. RTR Tyke trying to respond to Lucas Mas, and he does. I think he's going to be re-securing P3. Lucas Mas 22 not making it very easy for him, though. Holding on to that draft of his fellow Lamborghini driver. Mad Max and the other three Citroens pretty much lined up behind each other. Never mind as TGT Fab cuts in between those. Right in between ID 78. He's going to be now in P7. RTR ID 78 almost at the back of the pack there. MTX 069 and a Toyota chasing them down. Back up to Mad Max in P5. He's chasing Lucas Mas 22 right now in the Lamborghini, who's also chasing his companion there, RTR Tyke, who quickly bumped himself up a few positions at the beginning of this race. Very, very good start. As we check out the battle here for P1 and P2, Parallel 117 right behind his Ferrari fellow racer there. As he entered turn 15, see if he tries to bust a move here. No, he will not. He's just going to stay right behind the bumper of RTR Adrian Senna as they complete the first lap of this Suzuka race. 1 minute and 28 seconds. Sorry, 1 hour and 28 minutes left. I have to stop doing that, good lord. And Parallel 117 just a little bit faster than him on a straight, and he is going to be re-securing P1. That was taken from him during the qualifying. He's taking it back during the race. Adrian Senna right next to him, side by side. Almost side by side as they start going into the S-curves. Adrian Senna holding off a little bit, I think, just to stay closely behind him, and he's going to be going for an attack very, very shortly. I don't have to be a genius to predict that. These gentlemen certainly are battling it out. RTR Tyke still in P3, with the other racers just a little bit farther behind him. 7/10 of a second. 7/10 behind him is going to be Lucas Mas 22. Mad Max 8/10 behind Lucas Mas 22. Vornax in P6, about a whole second behind him. ID 78 barely holding on to the drafter of Vornax. MTX 069 TGT Fab dropped all the way back down to P9. I wonder what we missed when we were watching the battle over here at the front with Parallel 117 here. Now pulling away a little bit there from his Ferrari companion, almost a second, now a second ahead of him. Adrian Senna trying to close that gap as RTR Tyke gives him a bit of a bump there in the back, I believe. Tyke now getting the drafter of Adrian Senna, looking for a chance to secure P2. Lucas Mas 22 getting chased down there as well by Mad Max. Two racers defending desperately at this time. Adrian Senna defending from Tyke. Lucas Mas 22 defending from Mad Max, Pro-Am A driver, who's certainly impressing during this Suzuka race. Down the straight they go here once again to begin lap 3. Lucas Mas 22 closing that gap there on the straight from his fellow driver RTR Tyke. Mad Max also right behind the action there. If any of these drivers ahead of him make even a slight mistake, you can bet that Mad Max is going to be there to pick up the scraps very, very quickly. Parallel 117 still pulling away there from his P2 challenger. RTR Adrian Senna now almost 1.5 seconds ahead of him. And we have Lucas Mas 22 going very, very wide there, giving an opportunity for Mad Max to beat him to the hairpin. Did he do it? Yes, he did. He certainly beat him to the hairpin. And Mad Max is now in P4, ladies and gentlemen. What did I tell you? Any mistake that they do, Mad Max is going to be right there to take advantage of it. And off he goes with that momentum from that overtake on Lucas Mas 22, chasing down the second Lambo of RTR Tyke, trying to get back up to the P3 where he began during this race. Performed very, very well during the qualifying race session, RTR Mad Max. Lost a few positions at the beginning of the race, but he is back at it once again in P4, and like I said, chasing down RTR Tyke for his rightful position, his beginning position of P3. Let's see if he can secure that during this race. 1 hour and 24 minutes left in this race. Lucas Mas 22 still going to be holding it down there in P5. Vornax 1.5 seconds behind him, another Dutch driver in the other Citroen, another Prime A class driver. ID 78, one of our fellow Belgian drivers. He's going to be in P7 still. TGTF Fab GT Lap 1. One of our pro drivers in the BMW at the back of the roster there in P8. MTX 069 and the Toyota still at the back of the pack, holding it down there in P9. Mikios are not quite yet deployed. He's still just going to be hanging around there, waiting for something to go down. Parallel 117. Probably now worried a little bit as Adrian Senna is closing that gap ever so slightly lap by lap. Reeling him in slowly. 2.2 seconds behind Adrian Senna is going to be RTR Tyke. Mad Max still chasing him down there. About a second in between those racers, between P3 and P4, as Mad Max puts down one of the best sector times. Maybe going for a fastest lap right now. For those of you who do not know, if you do get a fastest lap during this race, we also award them 1 point on top of the points that they secure from their position at the end of the race. Not the fastest lap time of the race, but a personal best. I think he had a 1:59. Yes, he did 1:59.117. Still in P4, still about a second away from RTR Tyke in P3. RTR Tyke also closing the gap between him and P2, went from 2.2 to 1.2. Adrian Senna now pulling away now from Parallel 117 as he puts down the best sector time as he goes exiting the S curves, going into the Dunlop curve, turn number 7. We're going to be going under that bridge very shortly and into the turn 11 hairpin. He may soon have to start defending there from RTR Tyke, as you can see him in the background of the camera. Let's go back down the line there a little bit. RTR Tyke still about a second away from RTR Agent Senna. Mad Max keeping a good pace still, putting down 1:59s quite consistently there so far at the beginning of this race. Just behind Mad Max, about 2 seconds behind him, is going to be Lucas Mas 22 in the other Lamborghini. Vornax, a fellow Citroen driver, 2.5 seconds behind Lucas Mas 22. And ID 78 just got the overtake on the Pro Class driver TGTF Fab GT Lap 1. Passing him just before they get into the turns 15, 16, 17 to finish up lap number 5, I believe. Or lap 4 for them, maybe. TGTF's still right behind ID 78 though, as he spins out into the first turn, off into the gravel there, folks. And that is not going to be good news for TGTF. B Racing number 1 quickly saying his goodbye. Shout out to B Racing number 1. Have a good race there, sir. Thank you for joining us very shortly. Much appreciated. TGTF unfortunately losing his position there, spinning out in turn number 1. Not sure if there was a bit of contact there between ID 78 on the rear bumper. We will have to check that out later on. But regardless, a spin out happened to this poor driver at the first turn in lap number 6, I believe. giving a chance for MTX, the Toyota driver, to move himself one position up on the leaderboard as he goes around a hairpin turn number 11. ID 78 pulling away from all the mischief just happened behind him. There's a yellow flag shortly on the track. May have been some racers ahead of us. Lucas Mas 22 still in P6, Vornax P5 as we move up the line. RTR Mad Max still chasing down RTR Tyke in that Lamborghini. Tyke also putting down 159s pretty consistently. Not as fast as his qualifying race sessions, lap times. But that is usually expected for most drivers during races. RTR Adrian Senna still about 1.5 seconds away from his fellow Ferrari driver, Perlin 117, who's now back up there in P1. Lost that P1 position during qualifying because of Adrian Senna, and now he answered that challenge during the race where it matters that much more. A minute, an hour and 17 minutes left in this race now. These guys are probably going to be putting down something around the area of maybe around 60 or so laps, I believe. Probably just short or just past the Formula 1 official distance. I think that's usually 300 or 305 kilometers. Turning our attention for just a moment to some of the racers in the back of the pack here, ID 78 for example. Might just not be his day, might just not be his track. Because last time, during that Interlagos race, himself and his partner of Mad Max actually did a pretty good job of consistently working together and staying in that midfield. I think they finished P6 and 7, P5 or P6. Somewhere along the lines of that. It was very impressive to see their pit strategies there working hand in hand. Very, very smooth, very synchronized. But right now he's in P7, finding it out on his own. I think these racers do race side by side together in a garage setup that these gentlemen built up themselves. Pretty cool to see. Might ask him for a photo and I might throw that on the Instagram if you guys want to check that out one day. TGTF Fab GT Lap 1 recovering from that earlier spin out, taking back that position from NTX 069 in a Toyota. One of our Pro-Am A class drivers. And back up the line here with Perlin 117. As he is starting to put down a little bit slower lap times. Although now with 8 laps into this race, this is where tires are going to start wearing down just a little bit. We do have the wear settings down, set up in this Gran Turismo game, as well as fuel consumption. So these drivers do have to be mindful of their tire wear and their fuel. Most of these drivers I think are going to be racing on race mediums. May just be one or two few drivers in the back of the pack that are racing on softs, which would make sense. If you do start in the back of the pack, you probably do want to have a little bit more grip just to try and get some good overtakes at the beginning of the race session. It is one of the strategies you can go for. Pearland 117 with a little bit of a wiggle from his rear there as he goes around into the S-curves. May start seeing some of these drivers go into the pits shortly. Although on race mediums, they probably have maybe a chance, depending on how much they use those tires, better yet. Probably have anywhere between 3 to 4 more laps on those race mediums. Maybe a little bit more if you really, really want to milk it out of them. Although after that, you'll probably have to start worrying about your lap times getting a little bit slow. And that is not something you want if you're a driver like Pearland 117 in P1. Adrian Senna also falling back around 2 seconds. That continues to fluctuate depending on the turns that these drivers are on. That gap clearly closes up a little bit on the straights. RTR Tyke still in P3. Currently not under threat from RTR Mad Max, who's around 3 seconds behind him. Earlier was right on his tail. And that is not the case right now, but after the pit stops, we may be seeing a little bit more of a shuffle in the lineup yet again. A lot of these drivers even take the battle to the pit stops, as we have seen before. A lot of pit strategies here going on as well. Some overcuts, some undercuts, as we saw during the Interlagos race 2 weeks ago at the beginning, or kickoff of this RTR GR4 class championship season. And if you're interested in joining us, maybe even for this league or the next league or other leagues that we are planning to create in the future, is also possibly with Project Cars 2 that is also in talks. Take a look at the bottom of your screen. You can join us or check us out on Facebook, RTR Ready to Race Community, or check out myself, Bumblebee, on Instagram at Bumblebee_broadcasting. If you want to talk about us on any platform, make sure you throw in that hashtag RTR Community and BB66. Vornak still in P5 there. Fastest lap time for him is going to be a 1:59.57. And at the moment, the fastest lap time, the extra point, is going to be awarded at the moment to RTR Pearland 117, who is also in P1 at the front of the pack of this race. He has a 1:58.18. That's going to be the time to beat Lucas Mas 22, one of the Lamborghini drivers, racing in P6 at the moment. RTR ID 78 still holding it down in P7. TGTF in P8, and MTX 069, I believe, is going to be one of the first drivers going into the pits. Although he has been in the pits for quite some time now. May having some malfunctions, may having a little bit of trouble there. Something going on with the setup, possibly. Hopefully not. Hopefully he can get back out on the track as soon as possible. And up the line we see the second racer of the race going into the pits, one of the Citroen drivers. Vornax was in P5 earlier. Let's see where he comes out. Although many of the drivers ahead of him have not yet pitted, so he may be going for that undercut. RTR ID 78 probably seems to have the same idea, as he is also going into the pits ahead of many of the leaders. These drivers are definitely going to be looking to gain some positions when the leaders go into the pits. And MTX 069 back there, as you can see, still in the pits. A little bit worried about him at this point. There's going to be a big gap for him to close up if he does come back out to the track. ID 78 still staying in P7, as well as Vornak still holding on to P5, not losing any positions, not gaining any positions during that pit stop. I'm very keen to see who's going to be next to go into the pits. Also, which tire setups these drivers decide to go with, as the drivers that just went into the pits are probably going to set the pace and the mood for the next stint of this race. Big difference racing in race mediums, big difference racing in softs. As Parallel 117, our leader, goes into the pits, Adrian Senna following him as well. Mad Max as well. I think I just saw him go into the pits also, earning him a position out of the pits, passing RTR Adrian Senna. Parallel 117 dropping down to P2, just about to lap MTM 069, who has just gone back out there, thankfully. Hopefully he still has a chance to regain a bit of traction in this race. That was quite a while that he was out there in the pits. RTR Tyke now in P1, although he has not gone into the pits, and he has quite some life there on those race mediums, but we're going to be seeing him going into the pits probably shortly in the next few laps, I believe. Parallel 117, like we said, still in P2. Mad Max gaining a position on RTR Adrian Senna out of those pits. And many of these racers have definitely gone with the tire change option. Most of the drivers that were on mediums went to softs. Some of the drivers that were on softs went to mediums. MTX 069, I think, maybe it's just gone into the pits. I don't think he actually did a pit stop. So it doesn't seem like he's refueled or changed tires, anything of the sort. I may be wrong though. TGTF, also one of the drivers, I believe, that has not gone into the pits. ID 78 is one of those drivers that went into the pits, still holding on to P7. Lucas Mas 22, I think we saw him go into the pits earlier as well. We can say the same thing for Vornax, Adrian Senna, as he's looking to get the overtake there on Mad Max. Mad Max not making it easy for him as they go into turn number 1. Chasing him down into the S-curves now, as you can see Lucas Mas 22 is going into the pits. He may be one of the drivers that stays on the mediums, trying to go for longer stints. But focusing here on this battle that we're watching, is Adrian Senna is trying to find any gap he can find to get past Mad Max here. Mad Max doing a wonderful job of defending so far. Adrian Senna, as he's chasing him down, putting down the best sector times as he's trying to chase down P3, Mr. Mad Max. RTR Tyke at the front of the pack, you can still see him up there, has not yet gone into the pits. Parallel 117 still in P2. And we're watching this battle here, Mad Max getting chased down by RTR Adrian Senna in P4. As they go around the long bend of turn 13. And Adrian Senna easily having the straight line speed on that Citroen, bumping himself back up to a podium position in P3. RTR Mad Max still closely behind him as they start exiting turns 16 and 17, completing one more lap in this race. Just over an hour remaining. Vornax, another Citroen driver, another Dutch driver, just set up a personal best for himself, 158.33. Congratulations to you, sir. Still in P5. ID 78 gaining a position from that pit stop from Lucas Mas. He's now in P6, Lucas Mas in P7, who actually did not stay on mediums. That racer changed to softs. TGTF finally going into the pits. Getting some fuel, slapping on some softs. And MTX 069 as well. Getting lapped by some of the lead drivers there now. He's also with some brand new tires, a bit more fuel. Berlin 117 got the overtake on Tyke, although Tyke, like we said, has not yet gone into the pits. This driver's been going on for quite a long stint. Just about 15 laps on those race mediums now. With the settings we have on, that's kind of difficult to do. So I'm pretty impressed that he's maintained P2 so far. Gained a few positions for himself. I think earlier he was in P4. But we will see him going into the pits soon, I believe. So let's see where that leaves him. Although Atron Senna is going to be 7 seconds behind him. So that may create a window of opportunity for RTR Tyke. Let's see if he decides to go into the pits on this lap, on lap 14. And yes, he will be going into the pits, sliding into the pits. Definitely why he's going in there. He's going to be getting some brand new tires, definitely some fuel, and off he goes. So far, it looks like he's going to be coming out in P5. Let's see what it turns out to be. Out he goes there. And yes, he will be coming out in P5 there, folks. RTR Tyke is now in P5. Berlin 117 and Atron Senna back in 1, 2, and 3 is going to be going to Mad Max at the moment. Very good race stints there from RTR. Mad Max regaining his rightful position of P3 where he started from his qualifying race session. Vornax gaining a position due to the pit stop there of RTR Mad Max, or RTR Tyke as well. He's now going to be in P4 and 2.5 seconds ahead of the gentleman that just pitted, Tyke, in the other Lamborghini. RTR ID 78, 20 seconds away from P5, so I don't think we're going to be seeing any attacking there anytime soon. Not for another few laps at least. Lucas Mas 22, 10 seconds away from P6. TGTF going into the pits, as well as MTX 069. MTX also with a 0.4 of a second penalty in those pits. And out goes TGTF once again. Maybe not happy with tires or setup. Maybe spilled his coffee when he was driving, who knows. Out he goes again. MTX still in the pits. Wondering what's going on with him, not having a very good day in terms of performance there. Back up the line, Lucas Mas 22, P7, P6 still, ID 78. Tyke's still a little bit of a ways away from P4, 2.4 seconds now. Probably working to close that gap in the next few laps. As you can see, Vornax just ahead of him there on the camera. Vornax about to complete one more lap. Putting down another personal best for himself, 158.22. Mad Max going around the first turn, still in P3, chasing down RTR Atron Senna, who was just over a second ahead of him. 9 seconds away from him, however, is going to be P1. Mr. Berlin 117, comfortably in P1 at the moment. That is certainly a pretty good gap to have in a race like this. 9 seconds may not seem like very much to people who are new to racing, but believe me, that is a huge gap in the race world. Those seconds and tenths of a seconds could be factors in deciding who comes out a little bit ahead in the pits or a little bit farther back. Sometimes it's a bit of a numbers game, this racing. Mad Max still chasing down RTR Atron Senna. Mad Max the best of the 3 Citroen drivers. Vornax in P4 also representing Citroen. And 76. Going to ID 78, the third Citroen driver in that lime green with those bumblebee stickers on the side. Boy, I love seeing that. RTR Tyke splitting up those Citroens with the Lamborghini of his. That 69 Pro red sticker on his front bumper. He's in P5 still, going a little bit wide before he goes into turn 15. "16 laps completed in this race, 57 minutes remaining. Lucas Mas 22 still in P2, 16 seconds away from ID 78 now, a much larger gap. 48 seconds away from him though, however, is going to be TGTF Fab GT Lap 1. It's about 2/3 of a lap behind Lucas Mas 22. And sadly, MTX is still going to be in the pits. Don't think it's going to be a very good performance day for him. Still hope he gets out there as soon as possible, because that is one thing we do here with RTR, is if you stay in the lobby, you still get points. That's okay. You will still get awarded P9 points for staying in the lobby. Parolin 117 still in P1, like we said, comfortably ahead. Still just under 10 seconds ahead of RTR Adrian Senna. And look at Mad Max go, still putting down very, very improving and impressive lap times, going from 2, now he's putting down consistent 157s. That is why he is in P3. A very, very good driver here so far. Pulling away from his Citroen partner, ID 78. Mad Max going to be so far representing the front of the pack, ID 78 representing the midfield for them. Vornax not exactly keeping up with the pace of Mad Max here, putting down 158s consistently. That's created a gap of 5.7 seconds between himself and P3 now, which is pushing him back even further and further into the grips of RTR Tyke, who has a 1 second penalty. I wonder why. I think he's going to be paying that very shortly. That's why he started braking. That's why you've seen him slow down. Yes, he has. Following the rules, very sportsmanlike. Mad Max going into the pits, dropping down 2 positions. But keep in mind now he has fresh tires and some more fuel ahead of his challengers. A lot of these racers, like we said, are on racing soft, so this is probably going to be a shorter stint, which is why Mad Max has probably decided to go in with the early pit stop there. That's now allowed Vornax to just be around 8 seconds away from Adrian Senna. Now in P3, Vornax. And RTR Tyke now hot on his tail, 1.7 seconds away from a chance to secure podium position in this race as well. Very good race for RTR Tyke so far, holding it down in P4. Thankfully he has not had to crash or get hit by any other drivers so far. Fingers crossed. Here goes Mad Max in P5 after that pit stop. Now just ahead of his midfield brother, 18 seconds ahead of ID 78. Lucas Mas 22 just behind them in terms of position, but he is around 12 seconds away from ID 78. Was now a minute ahead of TGTF Fab in P8. It's just about to get lapped there, I believe, by Parolin 117. And sadly, MTX 069 still in the pits, but like we said, he's still going to be getting P9 points if he stays in the lobby. Ayrton Senna going into the pits, as well as Vornax, who has allowed RTR Tyke to get ahead in P3 once again. I think this guy is going to be going for maybe yet again another long stint, trying to get himself up there in P1 once again. Although RTR Tyke is definitely one of those drivers that's really good at keeping. He's really good at making sure he drives those tires to the death. He's one of those drivers I've seen that has the ability to have very, very long stints in races like these. As you saw earlier, he put 14 laps on those race mediums. Let's see how many laps he puts on these racing softs. One way to find out. Mad Max now in P4 due to that pit stop there from Vornax, who was earlier in P3, dropped back down there to P5. Only thing separating the three Citroen drivers is this driver right here, Lucas Mas 22, in the other Lamborghini. Manufacturing partner of RTR Tyke. TGT Fab still in the back of the pack there. In the back of the pack that is racing, of course. We have MTX in the back of the pack. And TGTF is still currently in P8. Quickly going down the line as all these drivers are now putting down pretty consistent paces. Some pretty big gaps we're seeing here now. 16 seconds away from Parallel 1017 is going to be Adrian Senna now. Tyke's still there in P3, 3 seconds away from Adrian Senna. 9 seconds behind him is going to be RTR Mad Max. Another 15 seconds between P4 and P5. Vornax also going to be around 15 seconds ahead of Lucas Mas. And 10 seconds between himself and ID78. And ID78 is certainly under no threat there from TGTF, who is about a minute away from the action. So pretty big gaps here. I think we're going to have to wait and see if some more action produces after the next round, the next cycle of pit stops. We are just about to break the 50-minute mark. 50 minutes remaining in this race. We are watching RTR ID78's lime green Citroen, a Pro-Am A class driver. Who in the last race of Interlagos secured P6, earning him 15 points in the championship stats there. His fellow companion right now who is ahead of him, Mad Max. Last time he got P7 just behind ID78's. Adrian Senna from the last race got himself P1 there, earning himself the first racer to get 30 points in this championship. Parallel 117 was now in P1. Last race he was in P2. B Racing number 1, as we said, unfortunately today is not here with us, won't be scoring points today. Tyke, who got himself 4th place last time, bit of a rough race for him last session. Today he's having a much better day in P3 currently, Last time he got P4, earned himself 19 points. TGT Fab GT Lap 1 got himself P5 last time. Very, very surprising to see him in P8 at the moment. Vornax last race got himself 15 points, as I believe he unfortunately didn't complete the race, but he still stayed in the lobby, so that still got him points. Lucas Mas 22 got P9 last race, got him 9 points. 949 is what we call it here. MTX 069 stayed in the lobby last time, earning himself 13 points as well. And Ferrari Glenn, who's also not with us here today, he got P11 last race. That got him 5 points. And now we are beginning to see these racers go into the pits. Lucas Mas 22 is going in there now. Coming out in P6 still. Some new tires and a quick refuel for him. Vornax still in P5. RTR Mad Max just around 17 seconds away from P3 now. "22 laps into this race here so far. Adrian Senna resecuring P1 there, ladies and gentlemen. Now what I am wondering is if that was during a pit stop or during an overtake. As it does seem that Parallel 107 has some pretty brand new tires, so I think that was an overtake due to pit stops, not really from overtaking. We will find out later on during the replays. So Parallel 117 is now going to be around 2.5 seconds away from Adrian Senna there. So if we do see a pit stop soon from Adrian Senna, we may be seeing another switch in positions. And RTR Tyke is quietly putting down some consistent lap times. He's staying in P3. I think he's just waiting for some of these racers ahead of him to do something to do what they do with their pit stop strategy, and I think he's just going to try and bump himself back up there to P1 and P2 like he did last time. Like we said, this racer is one that is known and pretty good at keeping some very, very long stints on whatever tires he puts on his car. Mad Max, and also extremely consistent driver here with us today in qualifying and during the race so far. Super cool livery on that and on that Citroen as well. He's still going to be in P4, also putting down very, very consistent lap times. And drivers to look out for the undercut strategies, drivers like Mad Max, like we just said, like Vornax, Lucas Mas 22, and ID 78. Those are drivers I've seen very consistently, even under our old name, do a very good job of using that undercut strategy to move themselves up slowly but surely up the line during the extent of these races. You have to keep in mind these are hour and 30-minute long racers and aren't short sprints. So pit strategy is certainly something that comes into factor in a races this long. As we're watching RTR Tyke going into the pits, He's going to be coming out in P5. Let's find out. No, he will not. He's coming out in P4. Just ahead of Vornax. He's going to have to be fighting that guy off now pretty soon. RTR Tyke put down around 10 laps on those racing softs, which is still pretty good given the tire wear setting that we have set in our race league here in Gran Turismo. Mad Max patiently got himself into P3 because of that pit stop there from RTR Tyke. He's now going to be a nice 10 seconds ahead of RTR Tyke. Now he is there appearing, entering the hairpin as Mad Max is exiting the hairpin. But he's still going to be 24 seconds away from P2, so Parallel 117 is not going to be worried about behind him. He is going to be mainly focusing on trying to close that gap ahead of him between himself and RTR Adrian Senna, who has been pulling away from him quite consistently now. Though they both have the same kind of tires. Adrian Senna is now going to be 3 seconds ahead of Parallel 117. Mad Max in P3 here at the moment still. Let's go farther down the line with Vornax. 0.5 of a second earlier was just the gap between himself and Tyke. Tyke is desperately trying to build that up to around a second. And he just did there, folks. I don't know if that was Tyke sliding into the wall a little bit there. He's still holding on to P4 as they go into the first turn. Lucas Mas 22 still in P6. And ID 78 is still going to be around 17 seconds away from Lucas Mas 22. I think these drivers in the back of the pack are probably going to be relying more on pit strategy now to get ahead in terms of position, because these gaps in the back of the pack are going to be pretty big at the moment. TGTF now a full minute away from ID 78. So far the biggest gap in this race here. RTR Tyke still in P4, slowly and surely closing up that gap between himself and Mad Max. 9.9 seconds now, although he's still and constant and under threat from Vornax, fellow Dutch driver. Just 0.4 of a second behind him as they go into turns 15, 16, and 17 to complete one more lap. Leaders now going into lap number 26, I believe, just ahead of them. Tyke always getting a chance to pull away from Vornax at the right time, at the right moment with that long straight. And he always does a pretty good job to keep that gap during the next lap, and then he resets it when he comes around again. Very tedious strategy, but whatever you got to do to stay ahead, right? Mad Max, the Belgian driver, that is the leader of the Belgian drivers in terms of position at the moment. He's going to be in P3 on the podium. Parallel 117 still with the fastest lap time. He's still going to be taking home that extra point. As you can see, he still has that 156.72 fastest lap time of the race. Parallel 117 still doing his best to close that gap up between himself and P1 Adrian Senna. Still 30 seconds away from him is going to be Mad Max, so he's definitely still not worried about that guy. As Adrian Senna goes into the pits there, folks, that's going to be giving the chance, the opportunity that Parallel 117 was looking for. He's going to be back up into P1 without having to battle it out on the track. Adrian Senna just coming out of the pits now as Parallel 117 is entering the S-curves. Now creating a 12-second gap between P1 and P2. Still 30 seconds behind him though is going to be Mad Max. Has not gained any sort of advantage. Oh, never mind. 18 seconds now, 20 seconds. It's going to be the gap between P2 and P3 Adrian Senna and Mad Max. Shaved off around 10 seconds from that 30-second gap earlier on. RTR Tyke still in P4, around 10 seconds now away from Mad Max. And has done a good job of closing away from Vornax, who I think has just come out of the pits though. That's going to be a 5-second gap now between those racers. Lucas Mas 22, 17 seconds away there from Vornax, still in P6. ID 78, also 20 seconds away from P6. And still a minute away, unfortunately, for TGTF. He's still going to be holding it down in P8, although he won't be losing that position, as MTX069 has already been in those pits for around 26 minutes, so he is certainly not going to be coming back, I believe. MTX, if you can hear us, very unfortunate you could not have finished the race with us here today, but thank you for sticking around and thanks for joining us here with RTR. Hopefully next time during the race you'll be able to finish the whole thing. And the Ferrari driver is still locking down the 1-2 on the podium. Mad Max still taking P3 with that Citroen. Tyke, the first of the Lambos, in P4. Vornax, fellow Citroen driver, in P5 still. Not many changes happened here during those pit stops as we're watching Mad Max go into the pits. I believe this is certainly going to change things up just a little bit there, as I think we did just see, yep, RTR Tyke is going to be coming out ahead of RTR Mad Max. Yes, he is. RTR Tyke is now in P3, ladies and gentlemen. 4 seconds, 4.5 seconds ahead of RTR Mad Max, who is now under attack there from a fellow Citroen driver of Vornax in P5. We're going to stick with these guys, see if we see any action going on into these S-curves. These drivers pretty much have the same amount of life on their tires, so defending and attacking is going to be crucial for them in terms of, oh, and a serious slide there from RTR Mad Max that may get him a penalty. Oh, did he freak out because of TGT Fab just ahead of him? I didn't know that he stopped ahead of him. TGTF was in the middle of the track there. That may have worried RTR Mad Max. May have caused that slide, that confusion, that loss of concentration from RTR Mad Max. It was allowed Vornax to stay just behind his fellow Citroen driver as they go around the long bend of turn number 13. Beautifully consistent driving from both of these races that we're watching right now. Vornak still hot on his tail, looking for any opportunity that Mad Max gives him. A little bit wide on the first turn. And you can see Vornak trying to creep up on the inside. Mad Max closing the door as they go into the S-curves yet again. Very good defensive skills there from Mad Max. You saw it earlier on from Adrian Senna as well. He managed to keep him behind him during that whole lap until they got to the straight, of course, where the Ferrari pulled away pretty easily. No slide from Mad Max on that turn this time, but he did go extremely wide as he starts hitting the brakes there. Vornak easily taking away P4 there, already 2 seconds away from Mad Max. Mad Max certainly not happy about that, I'm sure. He's now 2.5 seconds away from Vornak. Lucas Mas 22, 15 seconds away from Mad Max, so he's not worried about his rear, but he's now going to be worried about trying to make up for that mistake that just happened. Parallel 117 into the pits. Opportunity here for Adrian Senna to regain the lead. As Parallel 117 just comes out, but just a little bit too late to hold on to P1. Adrian Senna has now resecured the lead there, folks, as well as the fastest lap time with that lap time that he just drove past Parallel 117. Now he's in first place and also taking away that extra point right now with a 156.59 from RTR Adrian Senna. 3.8 seconds away from Parallel 117 now, and pulling away, putting down the best sector time. This man is on a mission now. Seems like he has gotten into his rhythm and he is certainly enjoying it. 30 laps down, 30 minutes left in this race here, folks. This is what we like to see here at the RTR community. Good races, good overtakes, good strategies, and above all, good sportsmanship. That's what we like at the end of the day. P1 and P2, the Ferraris going around the long bend there, the hairpin of turn number 11. Approaching turn number 13 now. We're watching RTR Tyke here in the Lamborghini. Going around that same turn where Mad Max spun out pretty badly. Losing his P4 position, giving it up to Vornak. That Degner turn turning out to be a little challenging there for the Citroen of Mad Max. That's where the incident happened, just exiting the Dunlop curve into turns number 8 and turn 9. Tyke pretty happily in P3, although he still is under threat of losing that position if he slows down on his pace, or if he goes into the pits. Vornak is going to be about 3.5 seconds away from him. Mad Max falling a little bit farther behind there from Vornak now, almost 6.9 seconds away from him. Lucas Mas 22 still around 12 seconds away from P5, and 22 seconds behind him is going to be RTR ID 78. He was still under no challenge there from TGTF Fab GT Lap 1. 1.29 minute and 29 seconds away from ID 78 now, unfortunately, for TGTF. And there, as you can see, MTX 069 unfortunately has not been with us for 34 minutes and 44 seconds. But he's still going to be getting P9 points for sticking around here with us. RTR Adrian Senna still holding on there to P1 comfortably now, 3.5 seconds ahead of Parallel 117. Although you can lose that pretty quickly, like we said earlier, with a simple pit stop. Back down the line a little bit, watching Parallel 117. completing another lap as well. Very, very good, consistent drivers, the Ferrari team. I do enjoy that these Ferrari drivers, in just about a blink of an eye, can go from a very friendly, teammate-like strategy to all out, every man for himself. As you can see right now, they are certainly battling it out. There's no friendship, no teammate strategy going on whatsoever. Vornax just began his 32nd lap. 27 minutes remaining in this race. Lucas Mas 22 going into the pits. Coming off of racing softs and very, very low fuel. Racer number 22. Refueling, getting some tires. Out he goes, giving up a position there to ID78. Yes, he is. ID78 now in P6, just slightly ahead of Lucas Mas 22. 0.9 tenths of a second is all that is separating them. ID78 having a bit of a slow start at the beginning of this race, but now he's slowly but surely moving himself up just a little bit into the midfield there. Let's see if he can keep this kind of momentum with just over 25 minutes left. Although Lucas Mas is certainly making it a little bit challenging there for him as they are exiting that turn 11 hairpin. Now approaching turn number 13. Still 9 tenths of a second between these racers. Any centimeter too much to one side, if you just twitch on the throttle with such a short gap, this is what creates opportunity for people who are attacking. Though ID78 so far has not put not a single foot wrong in this lap here, at least. Keeping Lucas Mas 22 at bay in that Lamborghini as they go on to begin lap number 33. Lucas Mas 22 gaining just a little bit on that straight, although ID78 just pulled away there again. And our leader, Adrian Senna, has gone into the pits there. RTR Adrian Senna. Racer number 88. Perlin 117 regaining the lead there. Back in P1. There he goes, charging into the first turn. Trying to create as much of a gap between himself and Adrian Senna as much as possible. "15 seconds away from the leader now." Adrian Senna comes out. Brand new tires, a bit of fuel. RTR Tyke going for yet again another long stint. I think last time we saw him in the pits was around lap 24. Vornax 3.5 seconds away from a podium position with 23 minutes left in this race. Good amount of life left on his tires. He might still be able to make something happen during this stint. Although 1.7 seconds away from him is going to be RTR Mad Max, who has done a really good job of undercutting those racers ahead of him, and he's been pretty consistent when it matters. He's been frequently appearing there in P2, P3. Still has a chance, I believe, of securing a podium position if he tries hard enough. Currently in P5, 1.7 seconds away from Vornax. So let's see what happens. 38 seconds behind P5 is going to be Lucas Mas 22 now in that second Lamborghini. ID 78 back in P7. I think he got overtaken there from Lucas Mas 22 eventually. And RTR ID 78 is certainly under threat from behind him still. TGTF Fab still with us, 1.43 seconds away from ID 78 in P7. Right now may be the time to consider some serious, drastic pit strategies if he wants to try and make any kind of ground up during this race. With just over 20 minutes left to go in this race, once again there folks, if you've enjoyed the action here so far and you want to be part of it in any way, shape or form with RTR or even with Bumblebee Broadcasting, if you're a bit more of a fan of the production side, you can join us here. Check us out on Facebook, RTR Ready to Race Community, and check me out there on Instagram, Bumblebee_Broadcasting. Happy to answer any of your questions if you're willing to join us. If you have any questions about racing, or if you just want to help out, volunteer, anything like that. Any race fan is a fan that is welcome here in our communities. So make sure you check that out. Even when you're watching the live stream, or just as soon as the live stream is over. If you want to give us a follow, give us a like. Always much appreciated to get the attention from our fans. As RTR ID 78, there's another man going into the pits there in P7. Brand new tires for him. Getting some fuel at the moment. Let's see where he comes out. Let's see how much that closed down the gap for TGTF, who was earlier about a minute 43 seconds away from him. Has that changed at all? Because right now it still says 1 minute 41 seconds. 1 minute 42. Unfortunately, may not have been any sort of improvement there for TGTF. Some improvement for Lucas Mas 22 though. He's 17 seconds ahead of ID 78 due to that pit stop now. Although we may still be seeing some pit stops from some of these drivers now, with just 19 minutes left. Mad Max, one of those races that you may be seeing going into the pits. Speaking of pit stop, Vornax has now gone into the pits. He had some worn out racing softs and very, very low fuel. Running on fumes almost, this one. And now he goes on racing softs, fueled up and ready to go for the last stint of this race. I think he's going to be able to make it to the end. RTR Mad Max, one of those races that we may be seeing going into the pit soon. RTR Tyke has been going on an incredibly long stint. Like we said, I think the last time we saw him in the pits was lap 24. This racer's on lap 36 on race mediums, ladies and gentlemen. Very, very impressive to see the tire management from RTR Tyke. Pearlin 117 at the moment comfortably in P1. Although, like we said, he may be another one of those racers that is going into the pits shortly. He's 14 seconds ahead of his competition, RTR Adrian Senna, the other man in the Ferrari. 40 seconds behind him is Mr. P3, RTR Tyke. So I don't think Adrian Senna is going to be worried too much about something happening behind him. And RTR Tyke may have, although he is putting down very, very consistent laps, as you can see, 159s all around, but that just may not be enough of a pace to get himself a little bit higher up on the leaderboard as he goes into the pits, relinquishing his position to Mad Max, who, never mind, has also followed him into the pits in P3. Let's see who comes out ahead. Ooh, this is exciting to watch there, and Tyke beat him to it. Out he goes on Racing Softs. Hopefully enough fuel to finish the race. One way to find out. Mad Max coming out of the pits as well. Vornax cutting in between those racers. TGTF Fab GT Lap 1 going into the pits. 1 minute 33 seconds away from ID 78. That's going to be a bigger gap now as soon as he comes out. Though he drove all he could on those racing mediums, and he drove to the very last drop of fuel. Out he goes on Racing Softs. Lucas Mas 22 off. There he goes in P6. And back up to the front as we're watching Pearlin 117 going in for what seems to be his last pit stop of the race. Just over 15 minutes left. Adrian Senna taking away that P1 position. Pearlin 117 just behind him there. 1.5 seconds, almost 2 seconds away from Adrian Senna in P1 now. Now Pearlin 117 is now going to be battling it out with everything he has, with 15 minutes left in this race. Probably going to be the last stint of the race for all of these racers. Tyke now a full minute away from Pearlin 117, unfortunately for him, although he is racing softs. Hopefully he can close that gap down with those racers battling ahead of him, although that is a very, very large gap. 2.5 seconds away from him, just put down his personal best of a 157.66. Vornax yet again in 4th place. 3.5 seconds away from him is going to be RTR Mad Max. Lucas Mas 22 still in P6, 18 seconds away from ID 78, 20 seconds away from Mad Max. And TGTF is closing up the round, closing up the back of the pack there in P8. And you can see Pearlin 117 now in the back of the camera view there of RTR and Senna as he hits that curve just a little bit too much there. That may have slowed him down just ever so slightly going into turn 16 and 17, completing lap number 40 of this race. Sorry, 39. And let's watch closely. Here's Pearlin 117. Chases down RTR and Senna into those S-curves. He's been closing down that gap. And you go around turns 8 and 9, just under that bridge now. Approaching that turn 11 hairpin. Pearlin 117 flashing his lights, trying to confuse his fellow Ferrari driver. as they hug that hairpin as tight as they can. RTR Tyke shaving around 8 seconds from that 1 minute gap on those racing softs. Pearland 117 sliding a little bit there as we turn the camera view on him as they exit turn number 13. Chasing him down that straight again, Pearland 117. 0.3 tenths of a second away from him. Are we going to see any bit overtake before they approach? No, we will not there, folks. But he is hot on his tail as they're about to begin lap 40. 12 minutes remaining in this race. Pearland 117 flashing his lights yet again, trying to get up to the side of his Ferrari partner. Adrian Senna closing the gap on him as they go into the first turn. Great defending here from the leader. Once again getting chased into the S-curves, approaching the Dunlop curve of turn number 7. Sliding a little bit now. These guys are definitely putting on a lot of hurt on their tires, especially the leader. Adrian Senna is doing everything he can to defend. That's going to be costing him some tire life, and with 10 minutes left in this race, that is going to be crucial to holding on to the lead. If Pearland 117 manages to hold on to the life of those tires a little bit more, he might be able to have an advantage in the final moments of this race. And so far he's been doing a pretty good job to manage those, but at the same time add that pressure to Adrian Senna. Chasing him down in the curve number 13 once again, putting the pressure on him. Adrian Senna having to slow down a little bit exiting that turn. Pearland 117 right up his muffler now. What are we going to see happen here? He went to one side. Senna going wide again, trying to defend. Pearland 117 now on the outside into the straight. They're going to be going side by side. Now it's just a simple drag race to turn number 1. Let's see who gets there first. Adrian Senna does have the inside at the moment. Is Pearland 117 going to be going for another outside overtake? Side by side, rubbing rearview mirrors on each other. Adrian Senna barely holding on to the lead, making that vehicle as wide as possible as they go into the S-curves. What an attack there, folks. What a defense from both of these Ferrari drivers right now. I certainly don't want to miss any of the action, but I want to give some camera time to a lot of these races down here. TGTF still in P8, ID78 in P7, Lucas Mas in P6 there. Mad Max holding it down in P5s there. Once again, still with very consistent lap times. We're going to talk about him in just a moment. Vornak still in P4. RTR Tyke still 55 seconds away from this action that we've been watching here between Pearland 117 and Adrian Senna. Both of these racers representing RTR, the ready-to-race community. And boy, are these guys certainly ready to race. On lap 41, just over 9 minutes remaining in this race. Pearland 117 going extremely wide in turn number 13, losing that gap, losing that lead that he was gaining on RTR Adrian Senna, back down to 1.3 seconds away from RTR Adrian Senna. That is going to be bad news for Pearland 117. Crucial moments in this race. That's going to give a chance for Adrian Senna to maybe chill out on that tire management, give a little bit more life to those tires, so that way he doesn't have to be pushing those things so hard now that Pearland 117 made that mistake. Pearland 117 still hot on his tail though. not giving up whatsoever, giving this man no quarter. And usually we announce it with 10 minutes left to go in the race, but we're just watching a beautiful attack and defense from P1 and P2 drivers here, RTR, Adrian Senna, RTR, Pearlin 117. That's why I said we're going to be going back to RTR Mad Max. With this new season, we've added this brand new fun thing we like to add of Bumblebee's Driver of the Day. And today, Bumblebee's Driver of the Day is going to be going to RTR Mad Max. We'll let him know at the end of the race. Congratulations there to RTR Mad Max. Just very impressed with his qualifying performance, and very impressed with the undercuts that he's been doing during this race. Although he is in the midfield, he's been battling it out since the beginning of this race, and he will be battling it out until the lights go out. Also very impressed during that 1 or 2 laps that he was defending from Adrian Senna when he was just ahead of him. Very impressive to see. If it was not for that straight, who knows, he may still be quite a little bit farther ahead up there. He gave Adrian Senna a run for his money, and that's why RTR Mad Max can be getting Bumblebee's Driver of the Day. Back to these two Ferrari Titans. Pearlin 117 already managed to close that gap down once again to less than 1/10 of a second between himself and P1. RTR Adrian Senna got to be nice to his tires for maybe half a lap. That's just about it. It's going to be a game now of tire management and pressure, and Pearlin 117 is adding the pressure, and this time he has the inside. Now ahead of Adrian Senna as they go into turn number 1. Adrian Senna now having the inside of the curb once again. Pearlin 117 fighting it off from the outside, pushing his car into the inside, and now defending as they go into the S curves. Pearlin 117 has now regained P1 position at the Suzuka race. 6 minutes remaining. A desperate battle for P1 and P2 from these two Ferraris. These guys are making sure they battle it out, but as safe as possible. I guarantee you none of these racers want to see a spin out between themselves, because that means an absolute disaster for both of these. Although RTR Tyke would certainly enjoy something like that. There he goes in P3, holding it down there consistently. 5 seconds away from him is going to be Vornax with 5 minutes left in this race. May not be enough for Vornax to get himself on the podium there. Mad Max still in P5, 2.3 seconds away from Vornax. He may be close enough to get some sort of an overtake. He has been putting down consistent laps, although now he's been slowing down a little bit from 57 to 58. We'll find out in the next couple of minutes. Lucas Mas 22, 36 seconds away from Mad Max. There's going to be no competition there, I believe, during the last 5 minutes, unless we see some sort of a serious accident or a spin out. ID 78 still in P7, giving way to the cars that are going faster ahead of him. He's about to get a lap from Pearlin 117. These are dangerous times. We saw this last time in Interlagos when Tyke crashed into Ferrari Glenn when he was trying to lap him. Although ID 78 does a really good job of being very sportsmanlike. He just got right out of the way there, even if it cost him some lap time. Making sure he does not get in the way of this battle is very sportsmanlike. Quite a sacrifice there from RTR ID 78. But he is certainly one of the nicest drivers we have on our roster. I can vouch for that. Pearlin 117 now creating that gap. The RTR Adrian Senna could not earlier on, 1.3 seconds ahead of RTR Adrian Senna, and probably because of that defending earlier. I don't think Adrian Senna has the tires to mount any sort of attack. He may just be relying on draft and straight line speed on the straights at this point. Both of these drivers are on the same compound, but keep in mind that for half of this time, Adrian Senna was defending and Pearlin 117 was attacking. That is a huge difference when it comes down to tire management. RTR Tyke in racing softs, but he has no competition in front or ahead of him. But he's been doing a good job of putting down consistent lap times and slowly chipping away at that gap. He's probably going to be going home with a P3, which I'm sure he's going to be happy with after that last race that happened in Interlagos that didn't give him a very good start and a very good ending, unfortunately. Though he did get driver of the day, so I think that did cheer him up. We're watching Vornax here for just a quick moment. 6.2 seconds away from RTR Tyke. RTR Mad Max still 2.5 seconds away from Vornax. Has not quite yet been able to close that gap ahead. Let's go back to the front here, although Parallel 117 is now almost 2 seconds ahead of RTR Adrian Senna. RTR Adrian Senna is still going quite fast, but I don't think he has the pace to keep up with the leader now. I think he's just going to be focused on holding on to P2, making sure he doesn't fall back too far ahead, too far back. Although Parallel 117 has begun to go a little bit wide on his turns now, I can see. Probably due to some tire life. This is something we're going to have to be keeping an eye on. As well as some of these racers racing in red. So this is going to be another crucial factor to see, with just 1 minute and 54 seconds left in this race. Just about enough time for one more lap, depending on where Parallel 117 finishes in terms of time for this race. In terms of time for this lap. Because if he finishes in enough time, he may force one more lap, which may not be good for racers racing with red fuel. Although I do not think Parallel 117 is going to have enough time to put down one more lap. I think this is going to be the final one of this race. Parallel 117 now a full 3.5 seconds ahead of his earlier challenger, RTR Adrian Senna. Now he goes into P turn 15, 16, 17. I think this is going to be the final lap for him. Parallel 117 is going to be the winner, I believe. Never mind, Gran Turismo says one more lap it is, folks. 34 seconds remaining there. We're going to go with a little bit of overflow time. There's going to be one more lap in this race. Like we said, that's going to be pushing those racers that are racing in the red. They're going to be starting to worry now of their position. If they don't have enough fuel, they are going to run out and they're not going to make it to that finish line. That's why we're seeing a lot of these drivers slowing down now, not really trying to mount attacks. These drivers are just trying to hold on to their positions now at this point. And it is now the official final lap there. So Parallel 117, once he goes along the finish line, if he comes around the finish line in P1, he will be winning this race, of course. That's a little bit more track left. Anything can happen here. Some drivers at the back already getting the checkered flag because they know they're not going to be able to finish up already anyways. RTR Tyke's going to be going home with P3, Vornax P4, Mad Max with P5. MTX 069 coming out at the final moments of the race. Parallel 117 still finishing up his lap of lap number 46. Down he goes into turn number 15. Into turn 16, hitting the apex of 17. And RTR Parallel 117 is going to be the winner of the second race of the RTR GR4 class championship. Congratulations to Parallel 117 as RTR Adrian Senna goes around the finish line for P2. Switching up positions Compared to last race at Interlagos, these racers had 1-2, Adrian Senna, Perlin 1-1-7 last time. This time, it's going to be switched up, still 1-2 for Ferrari. And RTR Tyke with the Lamborghini, going home with P3. P4, I believe, is going to be going to Vornax. P5, I believe, is going to be going to RTR Mad Max. Let's check out the race results before we call it a day there. And once again, congratulations there to RTR Perlin 117. RTR Adrian Senna going home with P2 with the same vehicle, the 458 Ferrari Italia GR4 class. RTR Tyke with the Lamborghini in P3 Vornax, and one of the Citroens in P4 Mad Max Bumblebee's Racer of the Day in P5 Lucas Mas 22, the other Lamborghini driver going home with P6 RTR ID 78. The last of the Citroens in P7 TGTF having a bit of a bad day, but he still held it down consistently in P8, and MTX 069 still going home with points from P9, although he did not complete the race. And once again, a quick shout out and a thank you to Mikios R from the RTR community. Happy we did not get to use you, but it was a beautiful livery that you have designed for us here today. So thank you for being with us, and thank you for making sure that we stayed safe during the whole race. And of course, the fastest lap time at the end of the day, the extra point is going to be going to Perlin 117, the winner, with a 156.51. Alright folks, that was quite a race to see there. An hour and 30 minutes of the GR4 class here with the Ready to Race community. Congratulations once again to the podium winners, RTR Perlin 117, RTR Adrian Senna, and RTR Tyke. Congratulations to you three and the rest of the racers that raced with us here today, folks. Thank you for joining us as well. To all the fans, all the viewers, very glad to have you here and present these beautiful races for you every other 2 weeks, that is. Hopefully later on in the future we'll be able to produce shows and races for you guys a little bit more often. Now once again, if you'd like to join us or check us out or simply talk to us, check us out on Facebook at RTR Ready to Race Community, and check me out on Instagram at Bumblebee_broadcasting. So again, folks, that's going to be the end of our race, of our live stream for today. Thank you once again for joining us. Thank you to the racers for participating. Of course, the next race happening in 2 weeks is going to be at the Autodrome Lago Maggiore, an Italian race, race number 3 with the GR4 class. We'll see you soon, folks. Bumblebee out.